Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rackham graduate exercises. My name is Alan Liu. I'm an associate professor of mechanical engineering and chair of the Faculty Senate. On behalf of the entire faculty, I congratulate all of you graduating today. At this time, we ask that you all rise, if you're able, for the singing of our national anthem.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Susan Collins, Provost and Professor of Public Policy and Economics, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 graduate exercises at the University of Michigan. First, let us thank again Christine Anand for her lovely rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Thank you. We're gathered in Hill Auditorium today with many others joining us virtually to honor and celebrate the extraordinary accomplishments of today's graduates. As the Chief Academic Officer of the university, it's simply wonderful to see before me the people who will be the leading thinkers, researchers, and creators of the future. What an impressive group they are. It's also a real pleasure to recognize the families, friends, and faculty mentors who have helped our students to reach this day. So let us thank the many people who've provided encouragement, support, and love along the way. Now, graduates, and we are so proud to call you that. Graduates, as you leave the University of Michigan for work around the world, as you do so, I encourage you to reflect on some of the important lessons that you've learned in graduate school. I'm not referring to the specifics of your subfield, but broader lessons about how to approach the work that you will do in the future. First, I hope you will take with you the commitment to diversity and inclusion of people and ideas that have been a critical part of your education here. Whatever your field of specialization, you've developed an appreciation for perspectives of others. Perhaps the most valuable lesson in graduate school is that ideas don't arrive fully formed. They require developing, honing, and they benefit from discussion and, yes, from criticism as well. The search for knowledge and understanding involves a willingness to be vulnerable, to recognize our dependence on others for the discovery and for the testing of those ideas. If we've done our job well, you've developed an appreciation for learning from those who challenge your thinking, and you value opportunities to explore their perspectives and re-examine your own ideas. As your teachers, we've welcomed and relied upon your challenges to our thinking because we know how much we all can learn individually and as a community of scholars as a result of your questions. A second lesson that I hope you will carry forward is the value of collaboration. To understand and address complex problems in responding to a pandemic, to the injustices of history, accelerating changes in our climate, we need teams of people with a range of expertise and a willingness to learn from one another and with one another. In labs, studios, and research groups, you witness the development of ideas and solutions to problems as a group thinks and talks together. Great work is rarely accomplished alone, and this practice will stand you in good stead throughout your career. In addition, a lasting lesson from graduate education is the importance of persistence. Like generations of graduate students before you, and certainly if I think back to my own graduate career, you have surely experienced those twists and turns along the way. Perhaps the disappointment of a failed experiment, discovery that the data you've analyzed doesn't quite align with your theory, or maybe learning about newly available archival material that has to be incorporated into your work. Whatever it was, you didn't let that challenge stop you. Instead, you thought about what you might have missed or overlooked and then re-examined your assumptions. And then you tried a new or adjusted approach. At each point, you strengthened your ability to identify and think through problems and to persevere. Whatever work you choose to do, drawing on your commitment to diversity and inclusion, your collaborative abilities, and your well-earned appreciation of that persistence will help you to succeed. These qualities will also contribute to your ability to move our society forward and to help address the complex challenges, and we know there are many, the complex challenges that confront us. The world needs the intelligence, the imagination, and the thoughtfulness that each of you can provide. As your graduate studies end, it's a great time to step back from the day-to-day routine and just remind yourself why you chose graduate school. The distinguished philosopher and educator John Dewey, who taught here from 1884 to 1894, had some thoughts on this matter. He recognized the importance of rigorous study, especially graduate study, because it enabled, and I quote, the transformation of ideas from assumptions that control us to tools of inquiry and action. Michigan has helped you to develop those tools, and you're ready now to put them to work in the world. So we look forward to the ways in which you'll use them to push boundaries, open new fields of inquiry, and contribute to progress in our world. So congratulations, we're so proud of you. It's now my pleasure to welcome the chair of the University of Michigan Board of Regents, Jordan B. Acker of Huntington Woods.
Thank you. Thank you, Provost Collins. On behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Regents, I'm delighted to join you in this time of celebration. Today we come together to celebrate all of you, your dedication, your determination, and your dreams achieved as you graduate from the best public university in the world. As Regents, we are inspired by your many scholarly achievements, and I'm honored to share this moment with you and your families and friends who are also justifiably proud of your accomplishments. Your world-class Michigan education has given you the foundation to excel personally and professionally, no matter what career path you choose. Your interactions with faculty and your fellow students from around the world have broadened your perspective on life and equipped you to excel in our increasingly diverse world. Today, you join one of the most largest and influential alumni networks in the world. We hope that you, like thousands of Michigan graduates before you, will return to campus often to visit. Wherever you go, remember that we are extremely proud of you and wish you the very best. Congratulations to the class of 2022. Good luck and go blue. It is now my pleasure to introduce Valerie Eberry Chukwu Nade, who is receiving her Doctor of Philosophy degree in Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. Valerie taught nuclear engineering to middle and high school students in Detroit while she was a graduate student here. She is currently a postdoctoral fellow at the Department of Energy's Savannah River National Laboratory and is planning a research career in her field. Please welcome Valerie to the stage. Congratulations.
Thank you, Regent Acker, for the introduction. I wasn't really sure where or how to begin a speech, so I decided to start with honesty. Honestly, I was on the fence until nearly the last minute about whether to even attend graduation. My indecisiveness was due to a mixture of emotions related to the pandemic. I felt like I left campus so long ago, and I was already starting a new career. I guess I was asking myself, what does it matter if I go? Then my biggest cheerleader, my mother, basically guilt-tripped me with her puppy dog eyes. But what really made me give in was I remembered her saying that although I hadn't been working for the past 5 years for this particular moment, the time and effort that I put into earning this degree means something and deserves to be celebrated. And then, the very next morning after, I booked the hotel room confirming to myself that I was actually going. I received an email from Emma Flores from Rackham asking if I would be this year's graduate student speaker. Without second thought, even though I usually second guess and overthink every big decision in life, I said yes to something that honestly quite scares me. Disclaimer, public speaking makes me very anxious. But in that moment, I knew immediately that I made the right decision to celebrate this monumental occasion with my colleagues. So if you don't remember anything else from my speech, the gist of it is simple, but sometimes very easy to forget. And it's this: celebrations like these, you, your hard work, and your degree truly do mean something. You matter. And all those who played a role into getting us into this moment also matter. Our advisors, lab mates, family, friends, spouses, pets, everyone in the audience, on this stage, behind the scenes, those back home watching us virtually, and the people who stayed up late listening to us whine about getting this degree in the first place. Plus the Uber Eats guy who delivered food to our late night writing sessions, and the Starbucks barista who remembers I love toffee nut syrup in all of my drinks. You all matter. Each of you has played an integral role in this moment, and I personally thank you for helping us get here. Thank you, Mommy. Now to my fellow graduates. I am especially proud of us. We have achieved one of the most difficult endeavors in our lives, complete with its own challenges, some of which would have caused us to quit. We've overcome multiple obstacles such as research failing, data looking like garbage, naysayers, code not working, new advisors mid-career, mansplaining, microaggressions, etc. And we have done so even while slogging through 2 years of a pandemic to get to this point, and that alone deserves a pat on the back. And I would be remiss if I didn't note that this was not only a global health pandemic, but a social one, economic, racial, mental, emotional health pandemic as well, which has all made it sometimes difficult to hold on to what matters, made us question what it all means. For example, does it matter if I put on pants for this job interview? It's just Zoom. Or more serious questions like, should I even be in lab today knowing the conditions of society right now, knowing that my peers are marching in protest of some of these conditions? But despite it all, you pushed through. And for that alone, you should be proud of this moment. Whatever crazy little voice inside that told you to go for this degree in the first place and kept pushing you to go to the lab, check on that experiment, or sit in that meeting even when it feels like negative 20 degrees outside, nurture that voice. Don't let your little voice lose sight of why you chose your field, why you chose to press on, what your research means to you, and why moments and memories like these are so important. I hope that after our names are called, we take pictures, celebrate, and go back into the world to face the next challenge that life throws at us. May this little voice always remind you that there's light at the end of that tunnel and that your next step means something. Right now, this world needs us to push the bounds of science, clean energy, mental health, racial inequality, immigrants' rights, queer and gender rights, childhood education, public health, microbiology, and big data. We are to be the pioneers in law and policy making, technology and robotics, medicine and disease control, psychiatry, farming and agriculture, international relations, cybersecurity, cancer therapy, in the arts, and even in social media, and overall in reshaping the ideas of humanity. Each of us has proven we have the skills, the minds, and the hearts to do just that. So let this very moment fuel you and remind you that despite the chaos of the world, you mean something, your work here meant something, and will continue to do so. My hope is that we go on and keep creating more meaningful moments, continue to inspire others, continue to change the narrative. I am humbled to be among some of the brightest and diverse minds that are going to reshape our society and our future, and honored that I was invited to speak at this year's Rackham Graduate Exercises. I also am thankful that I embraced the opportunity to stand here in this moment with you all, this wonderful graduating class, a moment I will truly cherish forever. And with that, God bless you all, and as we nuclear engineering students say, glow blue.
Good morning. Thank you to the Tekanu Quartet for that lovely performance, and Valerie for her inspiring words. Graduates, I know it's been hard work. The pride, the satisfaction, and yes, the relief that you feel are richly deserved. Take a deep breath and enjoy the moment. You made it. This is also a day of accomplishment for our faculty, knowing you have mentored tomorrow's scholars and furthered the legacy of exceptional graduate education at Michigan. And for the members and families and close friends who are here today, the significant others, this is a moment of great pride. These graduates are your sons and daughters, your husbands and wives, your sisters and brothers, and maybe even your mommy or daddy. You have been a vital part of their lives throughout this rigorous academic journey. This is a day for all of us to celebrate a love of learning and the importance of creating and sharing knowledge. Graduates, I did not anticipate standing here as president with the privilege of celebrating your accomplishments. I want to thank you and your professors for welcoming me these past several months. This change in leadership has been an unusual experience for all of us. It's certainly nothing that I had envisioned when I was completing graduate school. I walked onto the University of North Carolina's campus in 1965 as a graduate student, a doctoral student. My husband, Ken, and I arrived in Chapel Hill just a few days after getting married in Iowa. It was a whirlwind for us. I know each of you can appreciate the feelings of taking those first serious steps in your graduate careers. You're overwhelmed with nerves, confidence, anxiety, and eagerness. Graduate school is not for the weak of heart. My husband and I found an apartment to call home, and it turned out to be less than ideal. Inside, substandard heating left me suffering from mononucleosis. And outside, a backyard thick with fleas left Ken covered in bites. This was not the honeymoon suite. But no matter. We were immersing ourselves in the rich intellectual life that only a top research university can offer. My husband was pursuing a PhD in political science, and I was in the laboratory working on my doctorate in biochemistry. We each had thoughtful, supportive advisors and mentors. Fellow graduate students encouraged and supported us and became lifelong friends. I received my doctorate in 1969. It seems like a long time ago because it was a long time ago. But when I look out at all of you, the leaders and scholars of a different generation, I feel a strong sense of déjà vu. The pursuit of education is about much more than research, writing, and time spent in libraries and laboratories, essential as that is. It is about the world around you that frames those experiences and in turn inspires you to put your knowledge and discoveries to good use. I had long believed that my time in graduate school was a unique period in American history, and it was. Young people marched in the streets to protest the Vietnam War. Assassins robbed the world of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy. While I worked on my dissertation, cities like Detroit erupted in flames and violence during civil uprisings. It was a time of fear, tragedy, and injustice. But your education has also taken place during a most remarkable time. COVID-19 has attacked our world. The murders of Reverend King and Senator Kennedy have echoed the senseless deaths of everyday citizens like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Patrick Lyoya. Political violence at home and war abroad have left us uneasy about the future of our nation and the world. It's been an extraordinary few years that you will always associate with your time at Michigan. But here's another remarkable thread that binds our respective tenures as graduate students. In 1969, I joined millions of people watching television as astronauts walked on the moon. America's space race against the Soviet Union fueled my desire to become a scientist and to see our astronauts step foot on that lunar surface was breathtaking. You too have lived to see the improbable. In record time, scientists developed not only one, but several vaccines against the coronavirus. Aside from the space race, which shaped my belief in how science could change the world, the demand placed upon researchers to find a corona vaccine has been unlike anything I've ever seen. Think of how long people suffered from polio and smallpox before there were vaccines, and then reflect on the speed and effectiveness of these COVID vaccines. It's astonishing and a testament to the power of good science. So you and I have walked similar paths. We have shared a range of emotions and experiences, but a considerable difference separates us. Not only have you earned an advanced degree in one of the country's most rigorous universities, you did it during a global pandemic. I marvel at that. You taught classes, passed written exams, you wrote and defended theses and dissertations, all at a time when the world was in disarray. You accomplished it all during the most isolating and frightening time in our lives. I applaud you. We all applaud you. And now that the country and the world are reopening, we desperately need you. We need the new knowledge you're creating and the truths you're sharing. One of the few bright spots of the pandemic is that we've seen the absolute need for experts in the sciences yet, yes, but across all disciplines. I'm proud of the natural sciences community because of the many critical contributions it's made in the past 2 years. We also need expertise in the humanities to help us tell our histories. We need it in political science and public policy and other social sciences to provide insights into domestic and international challenges. We need expertise in the arts and creative expression to explain and interpret our world. We need experts in public health as we seek to secure a safe and healthy future for all people. Your advanced degree signals your attention to detail, your persistence, your dependability, and your independent thinking. You're an expert in your discipline. You're needed now more than ever because expertise is more critical than ever. You leave here as a very different person than the new graduate student you were not so long ago. You've acquired not only an advanced degree, but an entirely new set of experiences to complement your scholarly talents. These moments have shaped you. Now it is your turn to shape the world of others. Don't hold back. We talk a lot about leaders and best here. These simple but powerful words take on a new meaning as you complete your time at the university. It's what we ask of our graduates. We know there is greatness in each of you. The foundation upon which you stand is a University of Michigan education earned during a most extraordinary time. The heights you can reach are limitless. I will be thinking of each of you as you move forward. Congratulations on a job well done. It is now my honor to introduce our commencement speaker. Dr. Maria Clave is president of Harvey Mudd College and a renowned mathematician, computer scientist, and scholar. She has dedicated her career to creating science and engineering cultures that support everyone with the ability and interest independent of gender, race, or other factors. Her research has focused on ways to increase participation of women and underrepresented groups in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines. Her brilliant career has taken her to the University of Toronto, the University of British Columbia, IBM, Princeton University, and for the past 16 years, Harvey Mudd College. Tomorrow, we will present Dr. Clave with honorary degree, Doctor of Engineering at ceremonies in Michigan Stadium. Today, we are honored to welcome her. President Clave, I invite you to address the graduates.
Wow. I am deeply honored and delighted to have the opportunity to address the Rackham School graduates today. So first of all, congratulations to all of you and to your families. Pursuing a doctorate or a master's degree is a significant challenge, and you have succeeded, and succeeded at one of the top research universities in the world, and in fact, according to the chair of the Board of Regents, at the best public university in the world. Over the last few months, I've been reflecting on what I wanted to say. The traditional role of the commencement address is to give you advice that might be useful to you as you go forward into your new lives, inspire you to do great things, which as graduates of the best public university in the world, you're definitely going to do, and help you appreciate the education that you have received. Now, last weekend, I was on Pender Island in British Columbia, which, as President Coleman mentioned, we spent quite a long time at the University of British Columbia, and during that time, we acquired a place on Pender Island, and we were there to see our daughter and her new puppy. And I was working on this speech and feeling challenged by it, and she goes, "Mom, you know, all famous people get speechwriters to write their speeches. You shouldn't have to write your own commencement speech." And I'm going like, I've never had a speechwriter write any speech I've given. So, back to the graduate education you received at the University of Michigan. I did my undergraduate and graduate studies at the University of Alberta. Not the best public university in the world, but a really good one. While I was a student, I didn't fully appreciate how much that education shaped the rest of my life. The talent and dedication of many of my professors, my opportunity to start teaching other students at the age of 18. All of this made me determined to spend most of my career in higher education. I know that as graduate students at the University of Michigan, you've had many similar experiences to what I treasured at the University of Alberta. Innovative approaches to teaching and research, professors who love to work with you and help you develop your path in life, a dynamic intellectual community that places a high value on collaboration, and unfortunately, a pandemic for the last 2 years. But, you know, one of the things I have realized during that pandemic, it doesn't stop you from being able to create, to learn, to do wonderful work. And I know each of you has actually done that. And I know you got a fantastic education at the University of Michigan, and you're going to move forward and use it for the rest of your life. So, now let me try to inspire you to do great things. Until I was in my mid-30s, and I'm now 70, which is very hard to believe, I feel like I'm 17, but I don't look like I'm 17. But until I was in my mid-30s, I thought that one's long-term level of achievement and impact was mostly influenced by one's ability. I was wrong. Your ability is probably the least important factor. It turns out that if one wants to make progress on a difficult problem, whether in research or in changing the world, the most important elements are: 1, pick a good problem. That's definitely true of doing a PhD or master's as well. 2, persist and work hard, especially when success is doubtful. And that persistence and willingness to work when you fear failure is just such a valuable trait, and I suspect that every one of you has been through that in the last couple of years. And 3, regularly evaluate your approach and be willing to rethink your strategy. So I'm well known for being very stubborn, and many times in my life, I have run headfirst into a brick wall. In spite of the fact that if I had just looked a little bit to my right or to my left, there was a door I could have opened. So this willingness, when you're working on a good problem and you're working really hard, every once in a while, looking to one side or the other to see if there's a better strategy is a good idea. In most cases, it's also important to know how to build teams and alliances and be willing to ask for help. People do great things when they decide to do a great thing and stick with it. Every single one of you is not only capable of doing great things, you've already done great things. And a graduate education from a great university like Michigan is one of the best preparations for making the world a better place. Now for the advice part. I've chosen 3 pieces of advice based on my life experiences, and I tried to find things that somebody else might not say to you. So number 1 is pursue your passion where there is a need. Number 2 is be open to the unexpected and unwanted. And number 3 is it's never too late to learn something difficult. Okay, pursue your passion where there's a need. One of the things that drives me nuts about our culture in the United States and in Canada is that we tell students, do what you love. You'll be really successful. Pursue your passion. Well, sometimes the world doesn't need somebody doing what you love. It needs somebody doing something else. So I've had 2 lifelong passions, mathematics and painting. Actually, I have many lifelong passions: music, reading, cats, birds, teaching, children, the outdoors, and many more recent ones, but math and art have been core themes of my life since my pre-teen years. When I was doing my PhD, I was sure my career would be as a math professor at a Canadian university. It never happened. There were only a couple of academic openings for pure mathematicians in Canada the year I graduated. I didn't get either of them. I did get an assistant professorship at Oakland University, yes, the one in Michigan, and took it, but I hated it. Mostly for lifestyle reasons: no ethnic restaurants, no foreign movies, no bookstores, no boyfriends, and no other Canadians. By chance, I discovered that some of the mathematicians whose research I respected were professors in computer science rather than math departments, and that there were lots of job openings in computer science. Unfortunately, I knew nothing about computer science. I'd never taken a course, I'd never written a line of code. I decided that I would do a second PhD, and in the fall of 1978, so 1 year after I finished my PhD in mathematics, I started as a grad student at the University of Toronto. My plan was to complete the course requirements in my first year, so I was signed up for 5 graduate courses in each semester, and write my thesis in the second. Okay, was I a little overly ambitious? Well, I will say I didn't have a clue what I was doing in those graduate courses. I literally didn't understand a word. but I just went, okay, it's like learning a foreign language. You just stick with it and keep on listening. I got A's in all of them. I've never worked as hard in my life. 5 months later, I was being asked to apply for positions in computer science departments. And I actually went for an interview, and when I came back, it was at the University of Calgary, when Toronto heard that I was interviewing for positions elsewhere, the department head demanded that I apply for a job with them. And I did, and 9 months after I started that second PhD, which I never finished, I was an tenure track assistant professor in computer science. So I got to continue to do mathematics for my career, but I did it within the context of computer science. And I feel incredibly lucky to actually have done both mathematics and computer science. And I will tell you, if you ever make a transition to a field where they don't have enough people at some point in your career, you will always be in demand, because they will never have enough people of your age. So what about my passion for painting? After receiving my PhD, I kept painting watercolors, but hid it from everyone but my closest friends and family until I turned 40. I thought it was hard enough to be taken seriously as a female researcher in math and computer science without having people know that I was an artist too. On my 40th birthday, I came out of the closet. I framed 14 paintings and hung them in my home and office. 24 years ago, so it's 30 years ago that I was 40, since I'm 70, you guys can all do the math. 24 years ago, I started painting at meetings, board meetings, conferences, workshops, because so many of them happened on weekends, and weekends were my painting time. Surprisingly, I found this made me a better participant at meetings because painting kept me from talking too much. Okay, so that's pursue your passion where there's a need. 2, be open to the unexpected and unwanted. The afternoon I met my husband of 42 years and the center of my life, Nick Pippinger, was the same day that I swore off men for all time in the morning. Literally, I broke up with my then boyfriend and I said, I'm done, never again. When I was approached about the opportunity of being president at Harvey, my college, I was pretty sure I didn't want the job. Ditto for Dean of Engineering at Princeton, head of computer science at UBC, and joining IBM Research in San Jose. Yet each of these unwanted opportunities ended up being one of the best choices in my life. For example, so I didn't want to go to IBM because it was a big corporate company. And the only reason I went to IBM was because my husband worked there, and my husband was one of the shyest people in the world. And I thought, you know, we're going to get married, we plan on having kids. Putting him in a university where he actually has to talk to students, it's just going to be too much for him, so I went to IBM. It was one of the best things I ever did. So first of all, IBM was very proactive about promoting women and people of color into management positions, and they also provided superb management training. And I'll just tell you one of the things about academia. We're not that great about training department chairs, deans, presidents, provosts. My apologies. You really have to learn on the job in academia. But at IBM, I became a manager at the end of my 4th year and a senior manager a year later, and I got really good training. They also had very supportive maternal leave policies, and both of our children were born while we were there. So when I actually went back to academia with my husband, and I went back to be the head of the computer science department at the University of British Columbia, I had many advantages. I was a tenured full professor. I never had to go through any of that crap. Our children were 3 and 6, and we had a full-time nanny. I had my husband is known as Saint Nicholas in our family because he is like the most helpful person. Well, actually, initially it was because you'd have to be a saint to live with Maria, but he's amazing. Well, it's a good thing I had all of those supportive stuff happening because the culture shock of moving to UBC was really significant. In the Faculty of Science, every pronoun was he, despite half of the undergraduates being female. It was just he, everything, his everything. Out of 300 faculty in science, 11 of them were female. Out of about 200 full professors in the Faculty of Science, 4 were female. I was the first female faculty member computer science had ever had, the first female head of a department in science. I ended up, being the first female vice president at the university, the first female dean of science, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things about the scarcity of female faculty in science, and particularly in computer science, is that it launched my passion for figuring out how to get more women into graduate programs and faculty positions in STEM. And similarly, the scarcity of female undergraduate students majoring in computer science and engineering spurred my interest in learning how to attract and retain female students in these areas. And I'll just say, when I was doing my PhD in pure mathematics, one of the things I felt very guilty about was that I felt like I'm supposed to change the world, but I'm doing pure mathematics. What does that have to do with changing the world? But I loved mathematics. Well, you can change the world in lots of ways. So my change the world focus became, let's get more women into STEM in areas like computer science, engineering, and physics where they're underrepresented, even today. Let's get more people of color into STEM. So the last piece of advice is it's never too late to learn something difficult. So you're probably wondering why I would tell you this when you've just finished a very intense period of learning. Even at your age, there's some things that people think it's too late to learn, or at least too late to learn to be really good at it. Playing a musical instrument if you didn't start as a kid, or learning abstract math if you weren't good at math in high school. Well, most people are wrong. If there's something you're interested in learning, it's never too late. And it might just take you a little bit longer than people who started at a younger age. So 11 years ago, when I was 59, I took my first downhill skiing lesson. I had been skiing occasionally since the age of 15, but I grew up without a lot of money. And by the time I actually could have afforded lessons, we had 2 small children. And so I just never had lessons. And I was a pretty awful intermediate skier. I went to visit some friends in Sun Valley, Idaho, and without asking my permission, Lenny signed me up for 3 days of lessons, private lessons. Okay, I was not happy about this. I'm very uncoordinated. I mean, what could be worse than having somebody try to teach you something that you know you're really bad at? I hated the first day, but at the beginning of the second day, the instructor told me to try throwing my weight downhill a little as I was beginning the next turn. All of a sudden, it was so much easier. So I have now taken lessons every single year since then. I'm crazy about downhill skiing. So for example, we were in Sun Valley for 26 days over winter break, and I skied for 24 of the 26 days. The important thing about learning something you find particularly challenging is that it helps you become a much better learner and also a much better teacher. Our society generally advises people to focus on what comes easily to them. I think it's important to also focus on learning things we find difficult. And one of the things I love about being 70 years old is I'm still learning something every single day. So here are the pieces of advice. Pursue your passion where there's a need. Be open to the unexpected and unwanted. And it's never too late to learn something difficult. You are all going to do great things with your lives. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your address, Dr. Clave. Hello, it is my pleasure, on behalf of the Horace H. Rackham School of Graduate Studies, to offer brief remarks. I am Mike Solomon, the Rackham Dean. Before I get into this, I just want to say that I'm doing this without a speechwriter and with no training. But not without some laughs and good humor. Last year, I stood in the same spot at the same podium in a time when we were in a very different place. The ceremony was virtual because of the pandemic, and I stood alone on stage to record my remarks. Other speakers recorded their remarks, either here or remotely, and doctoral candidate Gia Ren recorded a dazzling piano piece whose notes echoed in this empty hall. It is therefore especially gratifying to see so many members of the Rackham community here today. Though I offer thoughts on behalf of the graduate school, I think I can speak for everyone when I say that it is truly delightful for us to be here together. Within these walls, there is joy and celebration of accomplishment, and rightly so. But just outside these walls, the world is precarious. The pandemic is ever present in our lives. We have witnessed continued examples of racialized violence in our country, along with crimes of hate. We question the durability of our democracy. Globally, the disruption and devastation of war weigh heavily upon us and serve as a reminder of other instances of military aggression that have received less attention. Progressing challenges like climate change are also never far from our minds. On this happy occasion, I mention these things not to dwell on them, but in part I want to recognize them to commend you for the tenacity and resolve you have demonstrated in completing your degree among such intense adversity. But more importantly, I mention life beyond these walls because at this uncertain time and in this unsettled world, your accomplishments and potential provide me with much needed hope. Because it's when things are most uncertain that you, as a Rackham graduate, are most needed. As holders of advanced degrees from this university, you are uniquely equipped to harness your skills in research, in scholarship, and in artistic expression to drive vital change. You will affect public policy. You will discover treatments. You will engineer solutions. You will connect the events of our day to broader historical and intellectual patterns. You will help us understand the problems facing us in ways that we do not imagine. You will produce works of art and performance that make us think, that make us laugh, and help us heal. There are so many different ways in which your work and scholarship can ultimately impact the public good, which at its highest level is what graduate education is all about. Many of you have heard me speak of the pressures on graduate education, the costs, the need for more flexible training, the toll of academic stress on well-being. But graduate education at the University of Michigan is changing to respond to those pressures. There is a strengthened recognition that the outcomes of your research and scholarship are not bound by the campus of this university, that your impact need not just be within the academy. Your discoveries, your creations are meant to resonate throughout a world in need. They will travel with each of you as you walk out of this auditorium today and towards the next question you will research, the next problem you will solve, and the next inspiration that you will follow. I therefore celebrate all that you have achieved in pursuit of your degree. I offer my thanks to the faculty who have mentored you, to friends and family who have supported you with their guidance and encouragement along the way. Despite the challenges we face, I believe that we can make a better world. I believe that research and scholarship will be essential to its creation. And as I once again have the chance to look out from this stage at so many outstanding graduates receiving their master's and doctoral degrees, I want to say most of all that I believe deeply in what you can and will accomplish. Thank you and congratulations. President Coleman, I now have the honor, on behalf of the faculties of the university and the executive board of the Horace H. Rackham School of Graduate Studies, to present candidates to you for the various master's and certificate degrees and to recommend them for the degrees named. Will the candidates for the degrees please rise and remain standing when the degrees are named? First, Masters of Arts. Master of Design. Master of Fine Arts. Master of Landscape Architecture. Master of Public Administration. Master of Public Policy. Master of Science. Master of Science and Engineering. Master of Urban and Regional Planning. Certificate of Graduate Studies. All master's candidates have now risen. Professor Coleman.
On behalf of the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan, I congratulate you on your graduation. It is now our pleasure to invite master's degree candidates to come forward and be greeted. think we get turned.
job.
We recognize individually the recipients of doctoral degrees awarded by the university. I invite you to notice the various disciplines represented as the degree recipients are introduced. You will receive a remarkable insight into the breadth and intellectual and creative mission carried forth with the University of Michigan by the authority of the state of Michigan, vested in the regents of this university and by them delegated to me. We shall now confer the degrees which have been recommended by the faculties. Michael Solomon, Dean of the Horace H. Rackham School of Graduate Studies and Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, Graduate Studies, will preside.
The candidates for the degrees of the Horace H. Rackham School of Graduate Studies will please rise and remain standing when these degrees are named. Doctor of Musical Arts. Doctor of Philosophy. President Coleman, I have the honor, on behalf of the faculties of the university and the executive board of the Horace H. Rackham School of Graduate Studies, to present the candidates for the degrees named.
I confer upon each of you the degree for which you have been nominated, admitting you to its rights, honors, and privileges, and charging you with its responsibilities. In consideration of those seated behind you, please return to your seats until you are conducted to the platform, where you will be hooded and introduced.
Doctoral degrees are the highest awarded by the university. We come now to the hooding of doctoral degree recipients, recognizing them individually. The ritual of receiving the doctoral hood is part of a historical tradition that began with the earliest foundations of European universities. Hooding has been a central feature of commencement exercises since the 12th century. When popes, kings, or emperors authorized the conferral of the doctoral hood, they were certifying that the recipients were master teachers who had earned ius ubique docente, which means the right to teach anywhere. Each doctoral graduate has undertaken original scholarship in the completion of a dissertation, guided by a faculty member who chaired the student's dissertation committee. Many of these dissertation chairs are with us today and will personally hood their students, welcoming them to the community of scholars. Their names will be called, and they are invited up to be draped with the hood, completing their doctoral academic regalia. The colors on the hoods identify first the university attended, and second, the academic field studied. University of Michigan's colors, maize and azure blue, can be seen on the lining of the hoods the doctoral candidates wear today. The border color represents the field of study and can be identified in the list of academic colors in your program.
Omar Abdelati, Electrical Engineering. Sarah A. Belson, Health Behavior and Health Education. Miriam Akram, Mechanical Engineering. Francesca Allers Roja, Psychology. Stefania Almanza, Casali, Environment and Sustainability. Avin Krishnan Ambika Vaya Chaurandam, Aerospace Engineering. I. Yub, Chemical Biology. Duvika Priya Bagji, Molecular and Integrative Physiology. Subramanyam Balakrushna, Mechanical Engineering. Josefina Banales, Psychology. Sergio Banerjee, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Shuborno Banerjee, Computer Science and Engineering. Allison Banka, Chemical Engineering. Ankush Bansal, Mechanical Engineering. Vincent Batista, Anthropology. Joanne Beckwith, Chemical Engineering. Akshay Buharjwa, Mechanical Engineering. Fabienne Burkle, Biological Chemistry. Mayor Burla, Mechanical Engineering. Jacqueline Quigley Bolter, Psychology. Connor Bolton, Computer Science and Engineering. Rawan Khalid Bonet, Linguistics. Benjamin John Brelji, Aerospace Engineering. Gillen Brown, Astronomy and Astrophysics. Brandon Buchanan, Materials Science and Engineering. Tobias Eugene Berger, Chemical Engineering. Margaret Burke, choral conducting. Miles Burnett, mechanical engineering. Sengun Bimba Dorji, electrical and computer engineering. Ting Kai, mechanical engineering. Tuan Yuen Chow, chemical engineering. Maria Lorena Chambers, history. Shamshir Cha Hawan, aerospace engineering. Stephen Chavez, chemical engineering. Che Xuan Sheng, materials science and engineering. Yun Jun Chung, mechanical engineering. Chinbo Chung, political science. Kathleen Chow, materials science and engineering. Taya Chow, electrical and computer engineering. Stephanie Chun, chemistry. Stuart Coles, communication. Elizabeth Collins Woodfin, mathematics. Sarah Colum, ecology and evolutionary biology. Mallory White Duck, American culture. Anna Cornell, classical studies. Justin Correll, electrical and computer engineering. Julia Coxon, industrial and operations engineering. Catherine Cunningham, information. Marina David, physics. Christopher Davidson, biomedical engineering. Amber Caprice Davis, educational studies. Brandon Davis, applied physics. Rosalie DeFino, educational studies. Abhishek Diani, macromolecular science and engineering. Wakamo Maria Di Moro, chemistry. Sean Dix, Chemical Engineering. Kevin Deach, Aerospace Engineering. Mei-Sing Dong, Computer Science and Engineering. John Edwardowski, Music Theory. Noura El Habal, Nutritional Sciences. Susanna Engdahl, Biomedical Engineering. Alexander Furness, Political Science. Lu Gan, Robotics. Spencer Garrison, Sociology. Emily Gauld, Germanic Languages and Literatures. Sija Geng, Electrical and Computer Engineering. David Gorosky, Applied Physics. Aman Goel, Computer Science and Engineering. Robert Graham, Biomedical Engineering. Jason Grant, Romance Languages and Literatures, French. Molly Green, Health Behavior and Health Education. Stephen Gregorski, Cellular and Molecular Biology. Junhong Gua, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Isha Gupta, Mechanical Engineering. Nahal Habibi, Chemical Engineering. David Hahn, Choral Conducting. Dorsa Haji Ghaffari, Biomedical Engineering. Ian Hawkins, Communications. John Hemmerling, Chemical Engineering. Nicholas Herring, Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. King Yun Hong, Pharmaceutical Sciences. Xiao Yin Shao, Information. Albert Xie, Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. Hongxiang Hu, Pharmaceutical Sciences. Yifeng Wang, Mathematics. Elissa Holt, Molecular and Integrative Physiology. Lauren Ebon, Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. Cassandra Jameson, Biomedical Engineering. Enju Zhang, Chemistry. Suresh Kumar Jayaraman, Mechanical Engineering. Huiwen Jia, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Xian Yu, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Jennifer Jimenez, Cancer Biology. Iakur Johnson, Aerospace Engineering. Joffin Joseph, Mechanical Engineering. Taewook Kang, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Pyangki Guo, Chemical Engineering. Jandy Kelly, Higher Education. Ashita Kara, Chemical Engineering. Dukan Kim, Macromolecular Science and Engineering. Hannah Kim, Chemical Engineering. Margot Kalenda Mason, English Language and Literature. Sean Kramer, History of Art. Anish Lahiri, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Aditya Lakshmanan, Aerospace Engineering. Catherine Langenfeld, Environmental Engineering. Tony Larkin, Neuroscience. Drew Larson, Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. Nat Quan Van Lay, Chemistry. Heian Lee, Social Work and Anthropology. Ming-Sun Lee, Materials Science and Engineering. Melissa Lemke, Biomedical Engineering. Jia Li, Physics. Huayi Li, Aerospace Engineering. Rusi Li, English and Education. Yingxian Liao, Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. Crystal Lee, English Language and Literature. Kevin Lieberman, Robotics. Hwan Lim, Mechanical Engineering. Nenupit Lim Lamai, English and Education. Chi Chuen Lin, Mechanical Engineering. Peter Lindus, Computer Science and Engineering. Xiao Line, Aerospace Engineering. Jeffrey William Lockhart, Sociology. Robert Loweth, Mechanical Engineering. Christopher Lupp, Aerospace Engineering. Carolyn Masserang, Educational Studies. Ishtiaq Maula, Neuroscience. Anna McCarter, Cellular and Molecular Biology. Lauren McMahon, Educational Studies. Adrian Melo Carrillo, Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. Lydia Mensa, Materials Science and Engineering. Bruna Menezes, Chemical Engineering. Sean Meyer, Design Science. Kyle Min, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Tianyu Liu, Macromolecular Science and Engineering. Aditya Modi, Computer Science and Engineering. Hyojin Moon, Music Performance. India Moore Petinak, Health Service Organization and Policy. Sayed Milad Musafafar, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Agnit Mukhopadhyay, Climate and Space Sciences and Engineering. Harini Muthukrishnan, Computer Science and Engineering. Jun Nakamura, History of Art. Claire Nason Tomaszewski, Biomedical Engineering. Samuel Nason Tomaszewski, Biomedical Engineering. Dylan Neal, Chemical Engineering. Ian Nessler, Chemical Engineering. Huen, Applied and Interdisciplinary Mathematics. Luis Nolasco, Movement Science. Catherine Norman, Biomedical Engineering. Valerie Hébert Chukwu Nwadie, Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. Gunsub O, Mechanical Engineering. Thomas O'Melia, Political Science. Ningxing Wu Yang, Bioinformatics. Aisha Patel, Chemistry. Olivia Patelli, Chemical Biology. Divyani Paul, Biological Chemistry. Andrea Pesh, Pharmacology. Reed Pinkham, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Aji Pulian Mako, Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Lu Chu, Movement Science. Shannon Cabeda, Chemistry. Daniel Cabeda, Biomedical Engineering. Brian Raker, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Ming Tong Fong, Epidemiological Science. Sandip Krishnan Ravi, Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. Vani Ravichandran, Chemical, Cellular and Molecular Biology. Donald Richardson, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Yolanda Rivera Cueva, Microbiology and Immunology. Robin Rodriguez, Mechanical Engineering. Atabe Rodriguez Benitez, Chemical Biology. Elizabeth Ronan, Molecular and Integrative Physiology. Austin Rovinsky, Computer Science and Engineering. Emily Seidel, Communication. Marissa Salazar, Psychology. Nilofar Salehi, Chemical Engineering and Pharmaceutical Sciences. Adrian Sanchez, Mechanical Engineering. Ryan Sandberg, Applied and Interdisciplinary Mathematics. Stephanie Sandoval Pistorius, Neuroscience. Omar Ashraf Siddiq, Civil Engineering. Alexander Shane, Climate and Space Sciences and Engineering. Benjamin Sheff, Physics. Carmel Shahade, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Sarah Simcoe, Music Performance. Daniel Sinnott, Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. April Solon, Cancer Biology. Taylor Susi, Chemistry. Ethan Sperry, Human Genetics. Sarah Spitzer, Climate and Space Sciences and Engineering. Arun Subramanian, Computer Science and Engineering. Mengji Sun, Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. Ryan Sito, Computer Science and Engineering. Luke Shemansky, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Suyash Tandon, Mechanical Engineering. Tanawut Tanatibodi, Astronomy and Astrophysics. Tony Ann Trevino, History. Ashish Tripathay, Physics. Hang on. Amin Turali Emre, Biomedical Engineering. Adam Van Duzen, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Saranya Rajan Varadarajan, Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Alex Vaskov, Robotics. Niharika Velaluru, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Matthew Villeneuve, History. Brett Wagner, Environmental Engineering. William Wang, Biomedical Engineering. Haozhu Wang, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Charles Wang, Microbiology and Immunology. Ophir Weiss, Computer Science and Engineering. Elissa Welly, Biomedical Engineering. Alyssa Wells, Musicology. Anna White, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Charles Wilkes II, Educational Studies. Jessica Wilson, Chemistry. Wilkinson Daniel Wong Gonzalez, Linguistics. Catherine Jane Wozniak, Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Olga Roblewski, Biomedical Engineering. Kevin Wu, Biophysics. Lucy Shea, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Hung Young, Mechanical Engineering. Emily Yerotz, Immunology. Jessica Yazarians, Chemistry. Xian Yan, Information. Teng Ye, Information. John Wan Yin, Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Hans Zander, Biomedical Engineering. Youngwen Shaw Zhen, Physics. Sheng Zheng, Physics. Jaifeng Zhang, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Yulei Zhang, Chemical Engineering. Wei Zhao Chang, Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Ji Sheng, Physics. Boi Zheng, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Amanda Lee Irwin, Cell and Developmental Biology. Christopher Stojanovsky, Health Behavior and Health Education. Stefan Raphael Sueda, Neuroscience. Angelar Muthike, Chemistry. Jadriana Acoste Soho, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Rundao Lu, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Jiyu Xu, Electrical Engineering. Mariam Salim, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Luowei Zhou, Robotics. Tejuswi Warlikar, Biomedical Engineering.
Will all the graduates and candidates presented today please rise? Will the regents, deans, and officers, the faculty, and all others on the platform please rise? Will all of the family members and invited guests who share in the recognition of these candidates presented today please rise? I now welcome our graduates to the community of scholars. We look forward to benefiting from your contributions your education has prepared you to make in our world. Congratulations. Please be seated. It is now my pleasure to introduce former Justice Curtis Wilder, member of the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan.
Thank you, President Coleman, and I think it's good afternoon. I know you're all anxious to celebrate your achievements, but hang on, there's one last great thing for you to know. You've been congratulated and praised by your families, your friends, and the illustrious academics and honorees on this platform. But now that you have received your degrees, on behalf of the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan, welcome new alumni. You spent the past few years of your life as a student at Michigan, but you will now spend the rest of your life as an alum of this great university. Wherever your life's journey takes you, you'll find your Michigan alumni family there, making a difference. I know you will continue Michigan's proud achievements and traditions, just as 200+ years worth of past graduates have done before you. Congratulations. Welcome to the Alumni Association, and go Blue!
Following the singing of the yellow and blue, the audience is requested to remain at their seats until recessional march of the platform has been completed. Then you're cordially invited to a reception honoring our graduates, their families, and friends. The reception will be outside on Ingalls Mall. We look forward to seeing you there. Now, please join us in singing the university's alma mater, the yellow and blue.